So the theme for Centers for Spiritual Living for the entire year of 2022 is Living Everyday Wonder. And this month we're looking at living everyday wonder as relationships. And of course we have to begin with the relationship with ourselves. So that was beautiful, Steve, thank you. So I want to channel my inner Curly from the movie City Slickers. So, do you know what the secret of life is? Right? So that one thing. It's the one thing. When you know that one thing, everything falls into place and you are forever free. Your secret of life is that one thing, and when you know that one thing, everything falls into place and you're forever free. Now, he didn't say it quite like that. He said, if you know that one thing, nothing else, none of the other shit matters. I paraphrased, but it's the same idea. And then we hear this beautiful song that Steve just sang about love. And so we ask ourselves, just ask yourself right now if you have a sense of what that one thing is for you. It's just nice to check in. And as you're going through your spiritual journey all through your life, you're asking yourself these questions, and it's always nice to revisit them. So today, in this moment, if you're going to say, what is that one thing, what is that for you? And love may be an answer. When I was at Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, I was the minister of the youth department there. And every year we had a youth service where the youth did everything. They did the ushering, the offering, the music, and the talks. And so one year we had 3 of the male teens speak, and then one year we had 3 of the women, young ladies, speaking. And it was always brilliant. It was always everyone's favorite service of the year, just to hear our youth speaking. And there was this one conversation where, the one speaker, so most of the 2 teen young ladies were in high school, and then we had a teen who was 13 years old, and she came up and spoke. And she said she wanted to speak about love, and she thought she knew what she wanted to say. But as she began to think about it, she just got up there. And when you get up and speak, you want to say something wise, right? You want to get up there and sort of show what you know, especially if you're a teenager, I would think, but all of us. So it was just this moment when she got up there and she said, you know what? I realized I don't know what love is. I just kept asking myself, really, what is love? She had a very difficult life, and she started talking about her life, and I think she was in the process of trying to emancipate herself, in fact. So it was, and she kept saying, and she would give an experience and say, what is love there? And what is love? And we were just sobbing as we were hearing this young, beautiful girl really, there's nothing more vulnerable than saying, I don't know what love is. And I think we all resonated with that because I think there's a little bit, for some it's a little, some it's big, of where we don't know the answers. We don't, okay, the universe is love, there's all this love, but really, what does that look like in my life? And even if you have a perfect life, you can look outside and you can see a lot of things that reflect not love. That doesn't look at all like love. And then if you look in your own life, what is love? And so we begin with learning to love ourselves. That's a place of beginning of discovering what love is. There's many places along the way, but today we're beginning with the self. But that can be confusing too, multiple. If you don't love yourself, how do you start loving yourself from a place that doesn't love? So that can be confusing. But I'm going to go another little route here, and I hope you go with me on this little journey. If not, just ignore it, and just stay with the question, what is my one thing? Because you got the answer to that. Really, the rest is, extra. So the question really becomes who am I? What is this self? We hear self-love. What does self-love mean? And so what we want to look at is we have 3 selves. And it's good to be connected with and understand these 3 selves. So we have our human personality self. And these are our habit patterns of thought. our habit patterns of feeling, our habit patterns of how we act in the world. And then we could have inherited that from our DNA, from our environment growing up, from our culture, from a group that we're part of, from experiences that we've had, from our thoughts that we have, wherever they come from, we have these habit patterns. There was a time when I was doing Ramana Maharshi had a spiritual practice of who am I? And so I was just living in that question. I wasn't trying to answer it, I was just saying, who am I? And I literally said it like a mantra. Who am I? Who am I really? Who am I? And I just kept doing that. And I was doing it for 3 weeks. I wasn't trying to answer it. I just kept staying in the question, in that feeling of inquiry. Very similar to what this young lady was saying about what is love. Like, question has such a powerful expression because it's opening us up to discovering things that our mind doesn't yet know. And so as I was in that question, I was walking down the hallway, and suddenly there's a part of me that's outside of my body looking at myself, and it said, your habit patterns. And I thought, well, that's a boring answer. I wanted something more magnificent than that. But what was interesting about that is it's true. Like, the more I've been with it over the years, that's who we are. We are habit patterns, and so much of the when we talk about habits, it's always we're trying to change habits, right? I mean, that's the first place of, if love, Ram Dass talks about self-love being about self-acceptance, and one of the things we are obsessed with, I can't speak for all the cultures of all the universe, but there's a lot of, in our American culture, about changing your habit patterns, and when there's billions of dollars of business about changing your habit patterns to make you more than you already are. What if we actually got to be friends with our habit patterns and really get to know our habit patterns? Because we have good habit patterns. I mean, we can't be learning something new every single day of how to exist. We have to rely on what we know yesterday. Otherwise, we're like children, constantly relearning. And in fact, there are people who have that little disease. They can't remember what happened yesterday, and it's a very difficult way to live. So we have habits that get us through the day, and there's good ones, there's ones, I don't even want to say good and bad, there's ones that serve us, and sometimes we feel like they don't serve us. So I just want you to take a minute, and I want you just to quietly say your name in your head, it's your full name, and then just think of how you would describe yourself via your thought and emotional and action habit patterns. Just take a moment and say your name, and sort of the habit patterns, not rating them good or bad. Emotional habit patterns you might have, good, those that you like, those you might not like, but they're just part of who you are. Action habit patterns, just how you show up in the world. Thank you. That's a way of getting to connect with ourselves, and this is the beginning of self-love, is really knowing who we are. So my invitation for you this week is to start to spend time with that process, just that one simple process of just looking throughout your week, however you do that, just really getting to know your habit patterns and not pushing the ones you don't like away and the ones you do like towards you, but just this full acceptance of your habit patterns, because that is who we are at a personality level. Like it or not, it's who we are. You know, they say when psychics read your energy, what they're reading is your habit patterns. They're not reading the divine idea for your life. What they're reading is your habit patterns. So your habit patterns have a lot of energy to them. So it's good to get to know them. That's the beginning of self-love and the beginning of what our self is. And that's not our full self. So another experience I had was when I was going into high school. I was reading Little Woman. I was going into 10th grade, and I completely connected with the character of Beth in Little Woman, and I was so invested in her, because I hadn't read a character. Usually women are so strong, or they're just like if they're a main character, they have main character qualities, and Beth did not have that. So I resonated with her, and I wasn't used to feeling so connected with the character, so I was so into her. And this is a girl book. I read a lot of boy books too. War books. I think of the boy books as being war. Anyway, I'm reading this, and I'm not expecting anyone to die, so I'm totally invested in her, and then she dies. Sorry, spoiler alert she dies, and I was so shocked, because I had so deeply connected with her, I just started sobbing. And then the name Harriet started floating around. And then the next thing I knew, I was up on the ceiling looking at this body, and I wondered, who am I? Who is that? What is that? And then the name Harriet floated over the body, and it said, oh, this is who I am this time, and I was back in my body. What I love about that experience is I come from a very practical family, atheist, agnostic. When I went to church when I was in elementary school, and my mom would say, Harriet, I don't know about that whole resurrection thing. I don't know about all those miracles thing. What matters is how you live your life. So everything in my family was down to earth. It was rational based. So I had never heard of reincarnation. I had never heard of a soul being outside. I had no structure to even think of this experience. And that's important to me because that experience for me was a pure experience because it didn't come from anything that I knew. So when it said, this is who you are this time, there's an implication that I was something else another time, which is interesting. But I was still I still felt completely me. But I wasn't yet that human personality that is Harriet. So there's Harriet, and this is all of you. We all have our name with our personality, our history with our families, and this maybe great stuff we've inherited, great stuff we've inherited, but that's that whole human history. And then there's this other part of us, this soul part of us that always exists. And it's a very hard thing to talk about because you don't have a personality chart for your soul. It's something you have to intuit. You connect with on a more of a symbolic level, on intuition level, on an intuitive level, but it's definitely you. So who is that you? And what is that? Who are you at the soul level? This is like the Joseph Campbell stuff, Carl Jung. Who are you that is beyond your human personality, but, and this is the third sense of self, it's not the great I am that I am. So last week I was talking a lot about the I am. Before Abraham was I am. I am that I am revealed itself to Moses. In all the traditions, you can anchor into this presence of the I am. Ramana Maharshi said God and self, the I am, is one and the same thing. There's no separation. So whether you have a name for God, whether God is your name, or Allah, or Brahma, or the ground of all being, whatever that is for you, it is also the I am, it is also the self. So Yogananda called his organization self-realization, and it wasn't about knowing your ego self, it was about revealing this infinite I am presence. Now this infinite I am presence is everything. We have to get clear on how vast this presence is. It is not just earth, it is not just all the thought that has ever been thought in the earth in the past, in the present, and the future. It is the cosmos and the stars and the everything that has ever existed and beyond. It's beyond all human concept. So the I am is huge. It seems like a silly word, but it's huge. And so you can read, people have experiences of this. I think one of the more famous ones is Elizabeth Gilbert in Eat, Pray, Love. She has an experience of this I am presence. But you can even have it in the immediate sense, where you're just suddenly, you're in that same place. Had a wonderful discussion with Mike and Shyla last week of just that moment where you just have this shift and suddenly you're the I am. And you're the exact same person, but now you're the infinite I am. So you may not necessarily be aware of what's happening over in Japan or in the cosmos, but you know that you are in this vastness that it just is. Everything, all life is happening inside of the I am. A wonderful example that Ken Wilber gives is when we're dreaming, we dream every night, different scenarios, multiple scenarios with multiple beings and craziness, and it's all happening inside the I am. We're none of it and we're all of it, coming through one awareness. Coming through one awareness comes all these stories. So the I am is like this whole universe, the entire cosmos being birthed and dying within the I am, but the I am is birthless and deathless itself. So these are the three I ams. And so when we talk about self-love, what we want to recognize is that self-love actually is needs to be activated by us in all three realms. And so how do we do that? Well, let's begin with just our personality self. taking care of yourself. You've heard there's a whole industry now around self-care, and that's important because they recognize in this world where everything is so much external, you got to just out there, we need to step back, take a bath, get a massage, spend time with yourself, go for a walk in nature, spend time with yourself, not just your loved ones, not just the people that nourish you. We'll get to the rest of the month. But spending time with yourself is so important. Having your own intentions and your own goals. So there's the external way of taking care of the self, but the most important is the interior way. There's a reason why these traditions all turn back to turning within, getting to know who you are. And it's not just getting to know who you are as the great I am, but specifically as these habit patterns. To really become friends with yourself. When you think of a best friend, you have a best friend, you long for a best friend, what is it that you're longing for? You're longing to be heard and to be understood. Not just heard, but to be understood. So you want your deepest heart's things, whatever you're going through, you want it to be heard and you want it to be known. You don't want them just to go, I hear you. It's like understanding. And then sometimes we also like responses. They actually say the best conversations are not just where we're heard and then we're understood, but then there's also a response. Well, and this is what it was like for me, or maybe have you thought about this? If someone's giving you advice and they haven't heard or understood you first, it's a complete waste of time. So, in a relationship of self-love, you're doing this all for yourself first. You're not waiting for a best friend or a partner or somebody else, because often they come and go, and they might not be there. And certainly, the person who's with us the most is ourselves, 24/7. And so to become on an intimate relationship with ourself, to hear ourself, to take time, because a friendship always takes time, right? They don't just happen. You have to spend time. So you have to spend time on a regular basis, not just once a week, I would say every day, listening to what your heart is needing to say today. Not just vaguely, not just, what happens if you do it every day, it stops becoming generalities, and it starts to becomes very specific. We start to really know ourselves just the way we want a friend to know us, or we know our friends. We know ourselves. We hear ourselves. I was just thinking even of the 5 love languages. I should have looked them up. It just came to me. And I was thinking, like validation. Well, if you're not getting validated by yourself, and you're not recognizing and validating yourself and respecting yourself, it's going to be very hard to experience it externally. Or you're going to become very dependent. You might get it externally, but then you become dependent on that external source to give it to you. And those external sources come and go. I grew up with wonderful brothers who were very supportive and were supportive of me during some difficult times. But then there were the other parts of them that could not understand at all what I was doing. And if I had become so dependent on their support, so that when they weren't it's not that they weren't supportive, they just didn't get it, that I would have fallen apart. But I have been learning to develop and know this core essence in myself, so I could withstand people validating me or not validating me. And we all have that. There are times when everyone's just right there with you, and other times you feel like nobody's there with you. We have to do this, and it's got to be solid. It's every day, solid, best friend, and it's unconditional love. I love that reading today, and we'll post it online as well. But there was one thing saying, you know your own beauty, you know your own goodness, but we also know our weaknesses too. And that's what unconditional love. We have to be unconditionally loving for ourselves. Again, going back to Ram Dass, acceptance, loving all aspects of our being, getting intimate with the things that we like and that we don't like, and it's not either or, it's all and. It's all aspects of who we are, the parts we don't like. And the parts when we do things that we don't like, forgiving ourselves, having compassion for ourselves, we become our own best friend. That's self-love. Now I'm going to skip soul love for a minute and go straight to the great I am love. So the great I am, God, universe, spirit, the divine mother, however we refer to it. That is everything. But the most extraordinary thing is that which is everything is also inside of our heart. That is also our I am. That is the deepest I am, the most extraordinary I am. And when we say within ourselves, we don't mean within our physical body, but within our consciousness. So when we tap into it within, we take out all the external distractions, which are temporary, into the eternal light of I am, and it is ever present, birthless and deathless, unchanging, and we start giving ourselves to that I am, we start to have healings beyond what we could ever possibly imagine. You see, as a human being, I can accept my thoughts and my habit patterns and being compassionate and be loving, but I'm still limited to what my human mind knows or my human heart can do. The divine takes us way beyond what I know personally. It takes me way beyond my own capability of loving myself at times or loving others or just being in love. I can't get there of myself, and that's, that wonderful statement is, of myself I can do nothing, that there is that place, we can do a lot of things, but there is places we can't know. So when we talk about whatever your version is of the divine, God, Holy Spirit, Great Spirit, there's two really important qualities that this divine has that's important for us to connect with, which is it's all-knowing and it's all-loving. So if we're experiencing the divine as judging us in any way, trying to make us prove something, that's not the great I am. The great I am loves unconditional. It's just an isness. It doesn't come, it doesn't go. It's this pure love, and it is pure knowingness. So when we're tapping into it, we're tapping into something that knows how the entire cosmos works. It knows it knows why we have eyelashes. It knows everything that's happening inside of our body. It's extraordinary. It knows everything that's happening in our world. It knows everything we've ever thought and ever will think. It knows the past and the present. I love Reverend Michael Beckwith's wonderful description of if you see an ant and it's left its hole and it's walking to a sandwich, so you can see the hole where it came from, that's its past, the sandwich is its future, and where it's walking is its present tense, and you're looking at it and you see it all simultaneously, that's the I am. All life is happening inside the am. It knows everything. So developing a relationship with this, a powerful and intimate relationship, again, it takes time, and it's every day, every night. We are giving ourselves to it. We are going to find places of healing that we never knew that we needed. We're going to find places of expression, self-expression. We came here to express ourselves. We are going to find and have these wonderful discoveries that we would never otherwise have without this I am. It loves us more than we can imagine. So we put that God first. And so when we say put God first, it's just another way of saying of putting self first. But it's the self that isn't limited to the ego, includes our human personality, but it's not limited to that. So there's no greater way to live than putting the divine first, because it's never hurt, harmed, or endangered by anything happening on this planet and any of the cosmos. It's free. That is total freedom. So we have this great I am, which is total freedom, unlimited good, unlimited love, unlimited joy. It's that which has no opposite. And then we have the human experience, which is full of opposites, full of humanity, full of limitations and strengths, and this wonderful dualistic, polaristic world, and we are all an individual expression of this I am. Ramana Maharshi would call it the I. We have I. There's two I's. But there's also the soul. And this is a little bit harder to talk about. I think of it, George Washington Carver, well, I'll get to him. The soul, to me, is where that one thing starts to emerge. So I'm just going to give my one little example, and then I don't have answers. You're going to be on, you already know your one thing, or you're exploring it. I became aware when I was in a place of non-self-love, and I knew what my habit patterns were, and I still couldn't get to a place of love. So I had to turn something greater than my human self, which is why I turned to God, gave my life over completely to God in 1990, and then through spiritual practices in 1992. As that evolved, that one thing started to emerge. Because remember, God is everything, and it's very hard to focus on the infinite that is all cosmos, beyond time and space. Blah, blah. Something starts to emerge, that one thing, and that one thing is actually a beautiful expression of who our soul is, what our soul is here to be and to express out into the world. So the way we love our soul is to discover what that one thing is. And that's why nobody can answer it for us. And sometimes it can be hard to find that one thing. Some of you know immediately what it is. And some people, it's taken a long time. I know for me, it took me a long time to peel things away because I had some shame, and the shame was actually blocking me from seeing what that one thing was. There's things we have to pull away to really know what that one thing is. I think of George Washington Carver. When we get to know that one thing, it opens up the secrets of the universe. He said he would be with a flower, just a single flower, a singular flower, and he said he would just be so fully present and love it, this one thing. And he said, the more I loved it, the more I loved it, the more I loved it, the more I loved it. I just kept loving and pouring all this love towards this one thing. He said the entire universe would open up. That's what your one thing is. The more we discover the one thing, the more it opens up to the universe. I love when I read Care of the Soul by Thomas More, he talked about the difference between spirit and soul, and this has always helped me because I'm slow. He said, spirit moves fast, spirit is immediate, spirit is right now. So you might have had things that you just know, and you know immediately. He said, soul moves like molasses. Soul knows it, but to actually live it and be it takes a long time. Spirit is free of all time and space. Soul is kind of that marriage of the transcendent and fully in time and space. And so it takes a longer time, and you feel everything. Soul is attached to everything. It doesn't go, oh, I don't care about that anymore. I'm free of that. No, it takes time. It takes process. So the soul can take a long time just to even know what it is. And like I said, you've known it from the time you were born, but there's things that cover it up. Like I think of, it's easy for me, and being married to Jack, of someone who knew immediately what his soul was, which was music. And there's no question, as we've lived our life together, that he has to do music. Like if he's not living that soul, whatever form it's taking, he goes into a depression. He starts to not feel good about life. Everything else falls apart. So in giving himself to that one thing, everything else starts to move into alignment, and he's free forever. He'll always be free because he knows his one thing. It took me a long, long time, and it wasn't that obvious. Well, once you know it, it was obvious, but there were so many things that kept me from seeing it or really accepting it that it wasn't obvious. So you were born to knowing that one thing. Everybody knows it. You know it. Your soul knows it. You've always known it. It's just being able to recognize it. So what I'm inviting you to do on this wonderful Independence Day, there's all types of independence and freedom. National independence, cultural independence, world independence, independence and climate, and I don't know, there's just a million ways to create independence within your own family and your relationships. But creating freedom for yourself individually is creating this self-love, is creating this habit pattern, whether it's through journaling or you could do video things where you're talking to yourself every day. Whatever it is, where you are becoming your best friend to your small self, where you are giving yourself to the divine every day, because that divine is going to guide you and hold you and care for you and love you and reveal amazing things through you. And all of that is there to fully be expressed as your soul, as this one thing. So I invite you now to, not now, but this week, as you're really being with your habit patterns as a personality, your God self, and to really be with your soul. Like you may already know the soul, this one thing. It might be something you kind of know, you have a sense of. You think it's one thing, but if you go after that one thing, there's no wrong decisions. Like, I think it's this, and you keep giving yourself, it will take you to your soul thing. The entire universe is conspiring for you to be really, really, really clear about what that one thing is. You're not being resisted. It's just, if you keep saying yes to it. So let's know our one thing. Let's join Curly in knowing the secret of life, the secret of everything moving into its right place, of living in that eternal state, even in our human body and our human personality. To live forever free is to know the one thing. Let's pray. So we just begin with that one thing that is for everybody the same, whether people know it or not, which is that which is the source of all creation. That which is the source of all creation, all light and all love, all form, all phenomena, existence, all time and all space, and yet is beyond anything we could ever humanly imagine, is beyond all time and beyond space. That which is forever free, that is unlimited by past precedent, that has nothing that is holding on to, nothing that can limit it. There's nothing to change or fix or make happen with this great I am. It already is whole. It is already pure love. It is already pure peace. It is already pure joy. It is I am. And how grateful it is to anchor into this wonderful isness of life, this one love, this one peace, this one harmony, this one joy, and knowing that this self-realized self is at the core of every one of us right here and right now. This great I am, this I that can never be hurt, harmed, or endangered. This I is infinite power and intelligence and love and freedom and joy, and it is I. It is I. And so I claim and accept this I am as all life, as all creation. For those people who don't even know that they are the I, we hold and activate this truth in, through, and as all creation here and now. All creation, we hold this presence that transcends the polarities and the dualities and the challenges of this very sometimes difficult and sometimes beautiful world. I am. I am. May we all feel that right here and right now, the I am. There's no separation. There's no other in the I am. I am. And from this I am, we celebrate and we give thanks that this I am has known itself before we were born. And it has called itself to express something, to be something, to shine something that comes so naturally to every one of us. There is an I am beingness. There's an I am thing, this one thing that comes so effortlessly we don't even recognize it because it's right there. It's been there our whole life. And sometimes we haven't seen it because it's so obvious. That one thing is right there, and anything that is covering up our awareness of this one thing, this soul heart, the heart of our soul's heart and our heart's soul, this beautiful thing that brings our heart and soul alive, everything that is covering it is dissolving into the nothingness from which it came. It no longer has any power over us. We open ourselves and we are willing to see that which we long to see, to know. And we celebrate this one thing that brought us into this world, this one thing that makes us like nobody else, that knows in each and every one of us is irreplaceable, that each and every one of us is a unique and original, this one thing that shines very specifically and powerfully as you, as us, as each and every individual who can hear my voice, who can hear my voice. This is absolutely alive and awake in our consciousness now for all beings everywhere now, right now, right now. And as this great I am, as this beautiful, soulful presence that we are, we hold and embrace all the beautiful personality selves, the many, many infinite, unique expressions of our personhood. Each and every one of us embracing whatever habit patterns we have in our life right now. We don't try to change and fix them. For 1 minute, we just accept. We fully accept with our whole heart and being, with our soul and with our spirit. We accept who we are humanly, just as we are right now. We accept ourselves, who we have been through this lifetime since the moment we were born. We accept all of our experiences and our way of being with them, the way we handled them, the way we had to protect ourselves perhaps, or defend ourselves, or express ourselves. Whatever that's looked like, we see it, we know it, we feel it, and we love it and accept it fully right here and right now. However we're showing up in this moment, we fully accept who we are right now in this moment, in our human, very human bodies, with our human emotions, our human minds. We don't turn away the ego. We celebrate and give thanks, and knowing our beautiful individual human self is an expression of the divine. And it is glorious, and it is essential, and it is a gift. And we see and know that our life is a gift. Our life is a gift. All lives are a gift. All the uniqueness, all the wonderful, wonderful original ways that 7 billion people are expressing themselves, every one of them a gift. We see that, we hold that place. And when we can't get to that place humanly, we again return to the divine that is able to do all things through us that we cannot do of ourselves. We open ourselves, we open ourselves, we open ourselves, we open ourselves. And there is only self-love left. Everything drops away, and there's only self-love. The self that is everything, and the everything that is the self. In deep and abiding gratitude, we just say thank you, thank you, thank you, God. And I invite you to join me now in saying, and so it is. Amen and amen.